Here are 25 facts about Kissy Missy that you might not know about. 1. Although not 100% confirmed, Kissy Missy's experiment number seems to be 1172, and this is because of two things. The first is that she looks just like Huggy, and so they were most likely created around the same time. And the second is a note that we find in chapter 4 called Weekly Checkup 1172, where in a note we hear that the experiment was rubbing the fur on her arms whenever she was stressed, which is exactly what Kissy does, pretty much confirming that this is her experiment number. 2. In chapter 4, when Huggy starts walking towards us, we assume that it was Kissy Missy because of the light reflection on him. However, in chapter 3, there was also a blue reflection of light on Kissy, making her appear like Huggy for a few seconds when she was tackling us. 3. Like we see in chapter 2, Kissy has problems using her arms for certain things, but despite these difficulties, she likes to write and even draw, which means it's possible that she could have wrote the notes in order to get us to free Poppy in chapter 1. 4. In chapter 3, when we restore the Sky Dome's power, Ollie starts talking to us, but during this, you can actually see Kissy was waving to us. 5. Also, in chapter 3, when we make it inside of Home Sweet Home, we eventually come across Kissy looking at a photograph of a little girl without paying any attention to us, which some people theorize that little girl as being Kissy before she was turned into an experiment. 6. Before we knew what Kissy Missy's name really was, a lot of people thought that the name Lovey Dovey would suit her, which would sound a little closer to Huggy Wuggy. 7. Kissy was eventually recommended to work in play care, similarly to how Catnap would help put the kids to sleep. But the thing is, the day of her relocation was the hour of joy, which is why we see her on a train car in the tape. But she then started killing the employees, maybe out of self-defense, but maybe there's more to Kissy that we don't know about. 8. Kissy's toy was released back in 1985, just about 1 year after the release of Huggy Wuggy, meaning that both the toys and the bigger bodies were created shortly after one another. 9. We've actually never seen the inside of Kissy's mouth, and the reason I say this is because when we see Huggy open his mouth in chapter 1, we see rows of very sharp and jagged teeth that look like they're ready to eat us. So is it possible that Kissy has the exact same thing and this is why she keeps her mouth closed? 10. According to the Playtime Co. merch website, it turns out that with the release of Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy shortly after one another, Playtime Co. then became a household name, most likely meaning that Huggy and Kissy were some of the most successful toys they made, especially since we see Huggy Wuggy in the gift shop in chapter 1, most likely meaning that he was a very popular toy to buy. 11. Although Huggy literally tries to kill us every time that he's seen us, Kissy seems to have a different type of personality, or it's possible that Huggy fell underneath the prototype's control while Kissy didn't. 12. In a music video that Mob uploaded to their YouTube channel, we see a bunch of scenes of all the different toys. One of them shows Kissy and Huggy both laying down in the middle of play care, looking up at the sky together. And if this is canon, then it seems that after the hour of joy, Huggy and Kissy were close to each other, and all of the toys were actually happy for a time. But with the lack of food, it seems like everything went downhill, and we now see what ended up happening because of it. 13. It seems that Kissy might have felt remorse for what she did during the hour of joy, because in a video uploaded to Mob's YouTube channel, we see the whole process of how they tried to transfer Kissy to play care. But after she kills the employees in the hour of joy, for some reason she just lays there on the board with blood all over her, which makes some people theorize that she could have felt bad for what she did and decided not to move or hurt anyone else. 14. Because of the weekly checkup notes that we find in chapter 4, we can assume that Kissy was made in 1990. 1990. Again, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's pretty obvious that Mob wouldn't make a note for some random character that sounds exactly like Kissy Missy. 15. It also seems that for a time, Kissy was undergoing severe emotional distress, which could be why she's super nervous nowadays, but when she was transferred to the shelf, the employees noticed that she couldn't really complete any assigned tasks and was just stressed out of her mind to the point where she was starting to develop problems. 16. During the phone call between Poppy and the prototype, the second that the prototype starts talking, it seems that Kissy knew exactly what was going on as she started shaking immediately. 17. Because of the scenes that we see in the music video, it seems to be that Huggy was the only one who would be able to calm Kissy down, because in one of the scenes we see her holding onto her arm nervously when she looks at Huggy, and then in the next scene we see them laying down on the grass together enjoying their time. 18. Kissy Missy along with Huggy Wuggy seem to look like monkeys with both of their hands and feet looking the same, along with the rejected toy called Barrel of Huggies in the rejected toy room that we find in chapter 2. However, it seems like this is as far as it goes because they don't seem to market them as monkeys, but they do kinda look like them. 19. In chapter 3, right after Kissy tackles us, Poppy tells us that this place makes her tense, most likely meaning that she either has memories as an orphan from when she was being experimented on, or it's possible that with the toys no longer living in play care and now being forced to stay inside of Safe Haven, there could have been some sort of battle that happened here that Kissy was a part of, as we even see Kissy on what seems to be a war painting in Safe Haven. 20. Although it seems to be confirmed that Kissy was an orphan who lived in play care, some people theorize that Kissy might have actually been Patty Hall, who was an employee who tried to sabotage Playtime Co. and was then transferred to Storage B. But you don't get transferred when you intentionally lose the company thousands of dollars. You get fired. So it's possible that this transfer to Storage B is when she was turned to Kissy, as we know that she used to work there. 21. In a chapter 3 trailer, we're eventually shown a photograph with 4 different kids. However, the kid on the right seems to be Kissy Missy because of the way that she's holding her arm in the photo, but this might also mean that the kid on the left would be Huggy Wuggy because of his shirt. 22. But if this is true, then the photo that she was holding onto in chapter 3 might not actually be her, but a girl she used to know back when she was still an orphan, as in play care the kids would share rooms, and so Kissy might not be looking at herself, but a girl she used to be friends with. 23. Because of the ending of chapter 4, when the prototype blows up the ground beneath us, Kissy eventually loses her arm by trying to hold us up, meaning that now both Huggy and Kissy are missing their arms. 24. Because of the similar injuries on both Huggy and Kissy, it's possible that Huggy was actually the one who tried to attack Kissy back in chapter 3. And this would also explain why we only hear screams from Kissy, because if Huggy and Kissy sound the exact same, then it'd be hard to tell them apart. 25. Kissy is also the only character who has had 2 cliffhangers, with us wondering who attacked her in chapter 3, and now we're wondering whether or not she's still alive in chapter 4. But as long as they don't kill her off, we Gucci, we are chilling. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.